I've been pretty eager to praise Bartees Strange on this channel. I really like the 2020 album Forever, and then of course a few months back I did a 5 artists I think have a huge potential of blowing up, of becoming really popular amongst all kinds of different fans. I tried to capture as many different artists in that video as I possibly can. Make sure you do watch it just to catch the other 4 that I mentioned, because one of them was Bartees Strange. I think the earnest indie rock flair to the guy has a lot of potential of crossing over to your typical rock fans. I feel like this guy could potentially be a festival staple, you know what I mean. Listen to the guy's music. Listen to songs like Heavy Heart. Listen to songs from the 2020 album too. These songs just seem to have that potential, you know what I mean? A bizarre little fun fact about the guy is that he's from Ipswich. He's from Ipswich, a small town in Norwich. Ipswich of all places. I just assume these artists that are residing in America that, you know, create bands that sound like this and typically sound American in the way that they speak are American. But no, this guy is from Ipswich. But of course, it's not just one person. He is a part of a collective. I think he was saying on Twitter at some point that he needed like a collective name for him and the bandmates just to give them credit, because it's not all him doing this. But I think at the moment it is technically like a solo thing. I don't know. It's a bit of a Florence and the Machine type deal where I feel like the front person of the project is going to get all the buzz, all the acclaim, all the hype. But actually there's way more to what goes on behind the scenes, and the other members need to get some credit. I really liked the 2020 album though. I think it has some fantastic rock tunes on it, some of the best of that year. Mustang goes hard, and this album here has a few cuts in the midst of it that are also equally as fantastic. They don't go quite as hard, but they are kind of a bit more subtle in their approach. They feel a bit more grounded. The vocal approach this time around feels way more emotive, and I feel like Bartees is letting out that emotional side of him really nicely and is making it easier for people to kind of connect to who he is. Heavy Heart has such a great culmination of all the things I've just said. It rocks really well. There's a fantastic section in the middle of the track where the instrumental kind of breaks off. I love that part where it's like feels incredibly celebratory but also super impactful. And then just the way there's so much passion coming out of his voice as soon as that part ends, and he just sounds like he's alone, he's just speaking to the wall, and he's just totally lost. There's just that kind of feeling that comes through. That realization as well, where he's like, on the chorus, I never meant to run out like that. Sometimes I feel just like my dad. Just lines like that really work really well. There's just such an earnestness to his voice on this one. It feels revelationary, but also just super powerful in the way that the instrumental is so impactful. It's a fantastic song. It's genuinely one of my favorite songs of the year. I am sad to see not many people discuss this one or reference it as one of their favorite songs of the year, but I genuinely mean it. It is that good to me. Mulholland Drive is another highlight for Bartees Strange, particularly on this album as well. It comes right after Heavy Heart. I think the chorus on this one is so fantastic. The kind of like plinky guitar playing as well sounds really playful. I really like that. Lyrically, I think it's a good track. Just everything about this one just feels well crafted and just a really well put together tune. It's a good little indie rock tune. A really strong run of tracks, because the third track as well is a really good little tune. I just think there's a bit of an interruption with the momentum and the flow of the album with Cosigns, where it introduces itself as a completely different track to anything we've heard really from Bartees before. It's just a totally out of nowhere style shift where there's an effect on his voice. He sounds more like Travis Scott than anyone I could think of on this track. It's so bizarre. And then the track has this audacity to transition later on in the second half into like this U2-esque sort of like arena sized massive track. It sounds great, but it's just such a weird meld of ideas in one song. Escape the Circus as well has got to be a good example of this, where it feels a bit more like a Bruce Springsteen Heartland rock feel to it initially, and then it explodes in the last like 30-40 seconds of the track out of nowhere, and it's just such a like an in-your-face kind of like, shit, well, I didn't see that coming. It honestly feels like a new song, and I feel like these transitions could be a bit tidier at times, because like I say, they feel like two separate songs stitched together. And while we're on the negatives, we were only close for like 2 weeks is one of the tracks here. That barely even feels like a finished idea. It's barely a minute long. The actual idea, you know, like the core of the track itself isn't that great. Just feels like it should have been extended into something bigger. But yeah, going back to Cosigns, once you get past this track, it drifts into some slower moments as well. Not that I'm against it, but I feel like the strength comes in the earnestness of the power delivery when the tracks feel a bit heavier and a bit more of like a rush of rock music. I quite like Bartees Strange playing into that, and the slower tracks are pretty nice. I mean, particularly Hold the Line, I thought this guitar tone was absolutely stunning on this one. It reminds me of some like country rock fusion, sort of like something like I'd expect Lynyrd Skynyrd to do, but also mixing it with some like Orville Peck and Jason Isbell. A really mad meld of ideas there coming together. I don't want to just name drop for the sake of name dropping, but I feel like, honestly, at points this album does feel like an homage to other artists, so it's not that much of a negative. I think in terms of an identity, there is certainly one there for Bartees Strange, but yeah, I think this album didn't quite hit its potential. I feel like there's just some places where I'm just a bit confused with some of like the stitching of transitions that don't fully land well, some of the really short tracks, delving into those slower tracks when the strength is clearly in the more powerful moments like Heavy Heart. It's a good album, but yeah, the potential's not reached yet. I feel like maybe a couple of more albums down the line that potential's going to be fulfilled, because there's so much here. I mean, you don't make a song like Heavy Heart when you're just an average indie musician. Like that is not a song just made by anyone. That is a truly fantastic song made by someone that has so much talent in them, and I think there's a lot to give, but they're not quite there yet, this little group here. But love to see that there's more popularity and more talk about them as time's gone on. They're slowly growing, and I think with more music under their belt, there's only one way to go, and that is up, up, up and up. So yeah, 6 out of 10 from me. I think it's good. I do think it's worth your time. I do think it's a solid album for sure, but yeah, not quite reaching that potential just yet. But still some really fantastic songs on this. If you're going to check out anything, check out Mulholland Drive or even Heavy Heart. And yeah, thank you for watching as always. Do let me know your thoughts if you have heard it. If you haven't, check it out and then let me know. Thank you for watching as always. Subscribe if you haven't already, and goodbye. Have a good day. Goodbye.